Buenas, buenas, mi gente. Bienvenidos once again to another exciting episode of Hablamos Spanglish. I am your host, Ana Carolina Salazar, and today we are gearing up for an enriching conversation among amigas. Today I'm joined by Estee Santoni, una mujer extraordinaria, extraordinary woman in communications and marketing who decided to start her own agency driven by her family's legacy of entrepreneurial work. This conversation illustrates the power of solidarity and the unspoken bond between women in entrepreneurship. Through Estee's heartfelt stories about her father, you will also see the profound impact of lasting legacies and the values they instill. Estee's story is authentic and offers insights into lessons learned, acceptance of her self-worth, and commitment to supporting others. And these principles, of course, resonate deeply with my own experiences and the spirit of family altruism. So siéntense, sit back, pour yourself a refreshing margarita or a cafecito, and join us for this episode with Estee Santoni, a conversation of navigating personal and professional landscapes, celebrating our cultural roots, and the shared pursuit of the entrepreneurial spirit in Hablamos Spanglish. So don't go anywhere, quédense ahí. The journey with Estee comienza ahora. Oh my gosh, Estee, we manifested this moment right here over a year ago when this was just a dream, or it was actually just taking form, and I'm so happy that you're here. We were at Estema having coffee at that time and talking about your story with your dad, and I got so inspired that I was like, I need to have Estee at Hablamos Spanglish once everything comes as a reality. So qué bueno, qué rico.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And I think, the timing always just kind of happens when it's meant to be. And so, had always heard about you, and then we finally had our coffee date, and then we got to know each other, and it's just been really cool.
I know. And then after that, I think we went to the Women's Conference of Florida.
Yes.
We had so much fun there. Yes.
Well, then I got to meet, you have such an incredible circle of women, right? Which I think, overall women, I guess the stereotype is that we're catty or we don't support one another. It's very hard. And so when you invited me, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's awesome. And I got to meet so many other incredible women. And then to go to an event like that about empowerment, I needed that at that point in my life. So again, manifesting.
Yes. You
came back in, for that too. So it's really
And
awesome.
I remember your LinkedIn post after we went to the conference, because it said, women business owner, like an agency owner as well, because Estee is an agency owner, and she's like a women agency owner, Latina, just invited me for this conference, and like you couldn't believe it. And unfortunately that that happens, right? And it has happened to me when at the beginning I didn't have support of many women, and I think that's why I started to create that community around me of women that supported each other, because I believe in women and the power that we have together. And also, even though we're agency owners, and I believe in the power of collaboration. That's why I'm dedicating this month to a strong women that are agency owners, and to celebrate each other and the contributions that we're making to our community and also in each other's life. So I'm really grateful for your friendship, and that we clicked from day one.
We did, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and it's genuine too. And that's why, for those who have been listening and watching you, they know your journey because you're so open. And I think it's so important because you're connecting with people and you're like, these are the things that I'm doing, and you always try to give back. And like, anyway, I can go on about you, and I will, but I just think it's really special, the bonds that you create with people around you. So even that day when I met these women and they were all incredible, and I'm like, well, duh, because that's what you keep around you is this, these strong, empowering people. It's really great.
And Carolina was there from Hi Hello. She's another great human beings that I'm happy to call friend as well. And I think it's just sometimes it can be magnetic, right? You attract those people to your life that and it I don't know, it starts with you, right? So and I know your story. I remember we met at the elevator, right? Of after
oh my gosh, we did.
a conference. We're already connected on LinkedIn.
We had already connected. We ran in the same circles. I remember we're looking at each other in the elevator. It was the Goa event.
Yeah.
At the convention
We were
center.
both, seeking our dreams
Yeah.
over there at that conference.
Yeah, I do remember that. I'm like, wait, do I know you? Like, I don't know. Are you this person? Are you that? And we just connected. That was awesome.
Pero a mí me encantó, también the story, your dad's story. And, all that you said that you had a different story from, the other Latinos. And I think we all have different stories, and we are first generation, second generation, third generation Latinos, and sometimes that it might not click. And I was just talking to Clemencia, who is also another agency owner, and she was telling me like, Ana, I don't feel Colombian. I didn't felt Colombian enough, or Latina enough, or American enough. So it was like, okay, how do I work that internally? And that's part of the conversation that you and I had back then.
Well, and so it's an interesting situation. So speaking for myself, both my parents are Cuban. They were both born in Cuba. And so they raised us here in America. And Papi's a business owner. We'll definitely get into that story. But for him, he was so determined to learn this language and understand English and speak English so he can speak to customers and clients and run his business, right? He had to learn the language. So he would practice at home. So although we spoke Spanish, we practiced with Papi his English. Yeah. So then my Spanish was not perfect. So I found so many instances that I was insecure and feeling like they're going to judge me because my conjugation's off. I'm going to say something incorrect. I mean, I'm here asking you, how do I say manifest in Spanish? Manifestar. But, these are those situations that I had to throw myself in even when I felt sweaty and uncomfortable and my heart's racing. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I felt the more I pointed it out to people, the better I felt. Like I would tell them, I know my Spanish is not perfect. I'm not embarrassed. So correct me if I'm wrong. And then I would just speak it. And so I already kind of called out that moment where like, you're going to hear me say something wrong. Just call it out. We're fine. We don't need to fake the funk. And once I got over those hurdles, then I was confident to put myself in those situations that were more Spanish or more about my culture and not worry about, them thinking, okay, la gringa, she doesn't really know. Because I actually did. I'm not going to say this name because this woman is still in the market. But I did a commercial for a local television network. Again, not going to say the name. And I thought I did a good job on this commercial. They needed a voice. They needed somebody. And behind my back, this girl told everybody, oh my gosh, she sounded like such a gringa. And she was criticándome.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't the criticism that hurt. It was that she was spreading that out to people. And it really stuck with me. And
it was another Latina?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's,
Yes.
Also.
And I was like, I'm just going to, still be her friend, right? I'm not going to think anything negative. But that drove me to really just grow and improve and not clam up and be shy. I was like, if her goal was to have me go into my shell, I'm going to do the opposite. So that was a big turning point for me. As small as that situation was, she may not even remember. But for me, it was traumatizing. I was so mortified. I'm like, I just stepped out of my comfort zone and somebody told me it was terrible. I mean, it was a lot. But
and I know media can be a cruel world. You and I both come from the media world, right? So, but you spent many, many years doing on radio, right? It was radio and TV?
Yeah, radio, the morning shows. I did for about a decade. I did shows throughout. And then we did some TV, a lot of entertainment coverage and news. So it was an amazing time. Like I loved the people I worked with. I loved the show that we did. I loved everything.
Yeah. And I remember, when I was at Univision, I they would ask me to do commercials for Venezuelans, right? Because I had the Venezuelan accent, and which I thought I didn't have anymore. But of course, they, if I was working with so many Latinos from different backgrounds, and it was fun. It was a fun ambience, but also, you are exposed to so many things during at a media company, right? And what I know you decided to become an entrepreneur and start your agency, but there are so many things, that led to that decision because you already had, esa venita
For sure.
entrepreneurial from your dad. So
yeah, so when I graduated high school here, and so for anybody in Orlando, go Bishop Moore, go Hornets. So I graduated and I was going to start at UCF, and I began an internship because I knew I would be in media, entertainment. I didn't know what that looked like. So I began an internship in radio, and it was such a great time. And throughout that time, I was thought, okay, one day I'll own a business. And I don't know what that looks like, but I saw my dad for years, doing it. And I grew up in that atmosphere. So I knew that'd be my next move. And so throughout almost this 20-year career, I would always come back to that. And for me, throughout that time, my dad, like many of us, right? Like our families, Papi came from Cuba. So he was, if I'm not mistaken, 14 at the time. And he always had this dream to be an aeronautical engineer. But here he is in a country he has no knowledge about, doesn't know the language, has no education, needs to figure it out. So he says, I'll just start fixing cars. I'll be a body man and let me just see where this takes me for now. And he starts fixing cars. And then he's like, well, I'm going to become now the best body man here in Jersey. And he keeps fixing cars. And then Papi, with his marketing mind back in the 70s, is like, how can I get people to know I exist? So he started doing cars for free. So he'd be like, okay, so Ana, I'm going to do your car for free, but don't tell fulano I did it for free. Like, you tell them I charge.
So traditional media.
Yeah.
Boca a boca.
Yeah. Well, he even made business cards. And I remember when he had us, like he would put him on toilet seats in the bathroom. He'd put him on people's cars. He'd throw him on the floor. He just wanted to be where anybody, if they go to use the restroom.
Like I know where my, people are spending their times. Let me be creative.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, my dad worked so hard and battled the language deficiency, however you want to word that, education, all of these things that I'd say lacked, right? And was able to start a business and be successful. So then here I come and I'm like, okay, girl, you speak English and Spanish. Okay, so. And you're educated and you're a smart girl and you're friendly. Like, you have no excuse. And so for me, that was such a driving force after those 20 years when I was looking for manifesting, back to your word, but like looking for the strength to make this career change and launch my business. I kept saying, okay, if Papi could do it, I could do it. And that's really kind I need that on a shirt.
He inspired you.
Yeah, 100%.
And sometimes they don't know that. And I tell that to my dad because I came here when I was 15. And my dad, is a well-known musician in Venezuela. And I remember like he was producing his own concerts here in Orlando. And I will go and he will say, okay, you can sell the CDs today, right? And my sister and I will sell the CDs.
Oh, his
CDs. So then I was like, for the next concert, I was like, okay, so I'll help you create the art for the tickets, and we'll create the art for the tickets. And then I will go and before, we didn't have social media, but I will go to every Latin own business to live here. This is the amount of tickets that I'm leaving you here. This is for how much we're selling it. And that's when I realized that everything started, right? When I was helping him with. So like when you told me about your dad and your story and how that sparked that in you, it actually made me reflect that it was, oh my gosh, yeah, this is how everything started. And
you don't realize it in the day to day, like they were working all the time. And so my aunt would take us home from school. They had cantina. So like, I joke about it because I'm like, Mommy, you didn't cook. I don't really cook because tú no cocinabas. And she's like, yo trabajaba. And yo trabajaba duro. I'm like, okay. But, the cantina, we would pick up food ya hecho. So we'd get home at 6:30 or 7 p.m. They're tired. And they would have arroz y frijoles y whatever carne. And that was our dinner. And so, all that to say they just made it work. But I grew up, then I married my now husband, and it was more traditional where his mom was cooking all the time y en la casa. And I was like, oh, this is so different. I was like, just so you know, I cannot cook. Okay?
That's not me.
I did lie kind of early on to get you, but this is the truth. But those were just things that I realized they really, they struggled with and they had to make work so so they could give us the life that they thought, you know, we deserved and that they wanted. And so now I'm trying to do that for my family.
And that's, you know, it isn't easy, right, to make that decision to, and actually just spend so many years working at the same company, and then like, you know what, I want to become an entrepreneur. And for me, in my case, I think, you know, it was easier because I had just come back from doing my master's, but I really admire those people that say, you know what, I'm gonna leave my job and then start my own business.
Well, and it's not easy. And for like anyone listening right here, there's like, you know, there might be someone in their mind going like, I've thought about this and I've been listening to Anna and I'm inspired. But you know, I think you kind of always know the answer. And I remember working with coaches in the past, and I'm like, just tell me what I need to do. Like, I don't want to think. Like, I want you to tell me you go left and I go left. And they're like, no, we don't tell you. You got to find it within. I'm like, what am I paying for? Like, you tell me what to do. But it is true, because I remember after months and months of the tears and the praying and the whatever and lighting all the velitas in the house, like, show me a sign. And then it all of a sudden hit me from the soul. And we were on a meeting. It was Microsoft Teams. I'm sitting there and I remember everyone chatting about like, okay, so in 12 months and 24 months and 36. And I'm like, I don't see myself here in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Like, it was almost like an out of body experience. And so I hit the end button. I was like, okay, bye. And I called my manager at the time, and he wasn't even off the call. So he's like, hello? He's like, we're still on. I'm like, no, we're done. So he and I talked, and I just said, I quit. I have to rip the Band-Aid off. And he's like, what? And I was like, it's not you guys. I love the company. I love you. You're he was an amazing manager. But I said, this is what I have to do for me. And so I left on a good note. It was super supportive. I just said, this is the time that I need to try it out. And let's keep a good door open just in case. But, you know, for me, it's like, this is it.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and it was rough to do that, but it took months of searching.
So, you know that 2 days ago, I was also at Estema, because that's my place to have my cafecitos right here in Orlando. And I met with Pablo from IDX, who also has an agency. And he told me, I think I did her logo, like we were talking about, so through Prospera, right? So it's funny because that's, Prospera has been an incredible resource, you know, and that's what sparked also in me to become an entrepreneur. When I was listening, I was doing the marketing for Prospera because I was an employee of, and when I was listening to all the stories of these Latinos entrepreneurs, opening their businesses and being so successful, and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe one day I could do the same. But I met with him, and he told me, oh, I think we did her logo, and I was like, it's beautiful to see, you know, also those stories that said, oh, I was part of the starting 100%. Point. And he's coming actually to record one episode, and I'm like, you know, of course, Orlando es pequeño, right? And we live in a small small world. Pero me encanta porque at the end of the day, we are here, we're a community, and we are helping each other out in some way, and we need that when we are making that type of decisions, of being a solopreneur, for example, like yourself.
And you're right, because I think sometimes we're too close to our business, our products, our services, right? And so I think having sounding boards, having a group of people that you trust, you know, like even the Pablo situation, like he was like, aren't you in marketing? I said, yeah, but I'm too close to it because everything I do, I hate. So I need...
The same thing happened to me because I did the same thing. I needed...
You just need an outside opinion.
Helped me with my branding because I was too close to it. I wanted somebody that I could talk to, and this is the idea that I have.
And I think that's why these circles are important, because I have people, and one is in this room actually, Nikki, and we've become really good friends, and she's one that I call, I'm like, I'm doing this or this is stressing me out, and she'll tell me when I'm overreacting, when I'm thinking too much. And you know, you don't want yes men and women in your life. Like you need people to kind of say, I hear you, and this is what I take from that, and I get what you're saying, but I would look at it this way. And so, you know, even when you're having these conversations, like I know you've taken nuggets from, and I'm sure they've received information from you too. And that's the beauty of this situation. Whereas as entrepreneurs now, I have the opportunity to almost implement a lot of these things that I hear from people. Whereas before in my corporate job, you know, I can only implement so much. At the end of the day, I have to answer to the answer to the answer to the answer. But in our world, I'm like, you're right. I didn't think of it that way. And let me pivot and try. And that's really valuable, you know, to have those people that either you come across casually or that you've built these connections with that you can genuinely rely on.
I know. And I know, like, for example, the designer, and he's a marketing owner, agency owner too. He's from Colombia, and he was the one who designed Bold's logo. Every time I see him, he's like, you know, his eye just, you know, glow. And he's like, Anna, you know, I see everything that you're doing. Like, you know, it's so good, because it's kind of like these are people that have seen you from since you started, right? And that follow your journey as an entrepreneur. And sometimes it just starts with, you know, that name, which I love the name of your company, because Viva Agency. Me encanta.
And it's funny because I put so much thought into that, and I didn't even know if it would work. And I almost at one point was like, you just need to pick something and go, because again, I overthought it, and I was looking on what was available on the domain. But yeah, I wanted something that symmetrically looked pretty, that gave my energy, because, you know, I can be a lot sometimes. Like I have to consciously be like, pull it back, which is a shame, but I do. And I remember, side story, but I went to a doctor once, and I remember walking in with like hives, and I'm telling him like, I don't know what's happening. I'm breaking out into hives, and I'm explaining in way more detail than he wanted. And he's staring at me. I'm thinking, is this going through? And he goes, can you just do me a favor and bring it down? And he did this. Un cubano, by the way.
My God.
And I was like, what? And he goes, can you bring it down a little bit? And then I was like, I was mortified. So I did, because I was so embarrassed. And I walked out of there, and I was like, what just happened? I was too much for this guy. I went in with this high energy. All that to say, in my name, I thought Viva means lively, vibrant. You know, I think I give that off at times. So for me, it just kind of encapsulated who I am and
definitely
the company. And I'm sure I'll keep morphing and growing, but I wanted for that name to stay there and be consistent with who I am.
It is definitely who you are. I love that name. When I remember when I saw it, because it captured, you know, my attention, but also it transmits that energy, right? Like, and something that you want to portray and that you want to accomplish with your clients as well, you know.
Thank you for that.
So I
bringing brands to life. Trying. But yeah, it's been awesome. And, you know, I think like for years I did a little bit of everything. Like to your point, when you were at Univision and Prospera, like you start doing all these things, and then when you launch, you're like, oh, now I get why I did all of that. Exactly. Because when you're in it, you don't get it. Because I did so many things that I remember I was like, I'm just going to put my head down, do what I have to do. It's not related to my job, but I'll do it. Or like when I was on the air, endorsements are paid commercials. So basically a company would say, hey, we want you to pitch this product or service. We're going to give you money in exchange, and we'll give you the product and the service so you can talk about it genuinely. And so the job was the sales team goes and sells to these companies, and I, as a radio personality, get the money and then the service. But I didn't have to ever really go and do anything from a sales perspective, but I did. So not even with the sales rep, I would pick up donuts and visit the clients. I would send them an extra tweet. Whatever I could do, I would go above and beyond. They weren't paying for this, but I would do it because I'm like, I care more about the longevity and the relationship than just getting every cent these people could throw at me. That wasn't the value for me. And I'm sure I left a ton of money on the table. I'm like, here's your donuts, here's this, I'll go visit.
But that's who you are also.
But yeah, and I think it's important to understand. So when you're in it, I didn't get it, but now I am selling. So the salesperson that I wasn't with the company is who I am today. I'm selling and trying to execute and trying to, you know, paint the picture for companies and people who want to get on media and buy commercials and whatever they want. So for me, it's been like all of a sudden full circle, these things that I did, and I went a little bit extra, not realizing the value they would have, you know, 2 decades later.
No, and it's, you know, sometimes I think, and that's part of our personality, because I am like that. Like, I'm a little bit extra. I always add something, and my team sometimes is like, Ana, el cliente tal, y yo digo, no, that's fine, vamos a regalarle tal cosa. Pero, because I also, first, I love helping, right? I love helping, and even though we have grown to the agency that we're now, I still maintain most of the clients that came early on, because those are the ones that supported me from the beginning. And I know what is to, to keep a business alive and going. Y siempre que pueda dar un poquito extra.
For sure. Well, and it's funny because I remember my dad, with the shop that he has, but like there was one employee that he had that was in La Calle, like on the street. I think he was an alcoholic, and he came looking for a job. And most people would be like, you're drunk, you can't handle this, I can't depend on you, I'm not going to have you here. Yeah. But my dad actually said, you promise me today you'll stop drinking and I hire you tomorrow. The guy never had another drink, and he was with my dad from like 1990 up until I think a year or two ago that he left, and just kind of got older and was doing his thing. There were employees that couldn't afford vehicles, so my dad would buy them something, and then out of each paycheck he would take out maybe $100 until it was paid off. So I didn't hear those stories. I heard them when I was young, but I didn't understand the value of them until now, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? Not everyone would do that, right? Yeah. Like he's had people from work release programs. He's like, if you promise you're going to do better, like I will support you throughout this next journey in your life. Some didn't come through, and he's like, okay, fine, but I tried. And others still to this day are like super thankful, and to him and the opportunities that he gave them. So now, as an adult in my 30s, I get it. Like I see the value in that, and always trying to lend an extra hand, no matter how big you get or where you go in life, that you continue to give back in some way. And if you see my dad, and for those who know, he's always chill. He usually has his M&M Auto Collision shirt, cargo pants, and he's like, I don't care. I don't care what people think. He's just in it for him and his family, and it's really admirable.
No, so sweet. No, you mentioned that story, and me hace recordar, my dad. So back to the music, I remember like he will, in Venezuela, things were going, are bad. So there is a special visa for, oh my gosh, it's for artists. It's like something that, that nobody else, that you wouldn't find here in the U.S., for example. Okay. It's like habilidades especiales, So my dad used to help because of his productions and the concerts that he was doing and all these things. He will ask for and help with this visa process for many artists in Venezuela. So, and I remember telling my dad, wow, Dad, Papa, you're doing a lot, for these musicians. Now, these musicians are here in the U.S., and they are making a life. They have their own families. They ya tienen su residencia. So, and I remember at that time I was like, bueno, papi, pero no, you don't have to be doing this for everybody. Yeah. And like, but he wanted, always helping and desiring things. Él ya lo conocía. He wanted to do something for his people, right? So, y yo creo que es admirable when they do for something like that, right? Yeah, and it sticks with us. So now, I know it's hard to fill those shoes, but
you're doing an incredible job, and I think like I knew you before I even knew you. I remember being like, who is this girl? She's super young. The Venezuela, what's her story? And I didn't realize the connections, like you had known my husband, and like just I didn't realize
also because your husband was my legal advisor when I I launched Bold. He registered Bold.
I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. So I didn't know any of these connections. Yeah. I just was like, she's awesome. Who is this girl? One day we'll meet. But I was still in radio. I wasn't even thinking yet anything. So then, just things are weird. They come full circle. Back to your word, manifesting, which is just like, I feel like the theme here. But I think the more we say things, we put it out there and you truly believe it and you feel it in your bones, as absurd as it is, it happens, and there were so many things in life that I go back to where even up until launching and leaving that I had said out loud and I was like, this sounds crazy. I don't even almost believe it, but I'm going to say it anyway. And it just eventually finds its way. So,
and I love it. And you just manifested something, before we started recording, which is maybe your own podcast, which I can't wait, for that idea.
Now you're putting it out there, so it's got to happen.
Yeah, I'm putting it out there. Because you have it in you, and it's like something that I can see you doing it. You have been all the time behind the scenes, but you have that in you to do something, and whatever it is. Because I told you my dad bought my mic for me to do my podcast, and estaba engavetado por un año.
Wow.
And one day you're gonna realize that, oh, this is what I want to do. This is what I started doing the podcast in Spanish at the beginning because I felt comfortable doing in Spanish.
Of course, yeah.
And it was at home through Zoom. And I realized that what I have written out on the paper, which I still keep, I was just brainstorming with my sister one night in my bedroom. I'm like, this is a podcast that I want to create. And, and I remember I put that I wanted to kind of tell our story and educate the American community about the impact that we're making. But I wasn't going to do that if I continue in Spanish. So when that clicked, I was like, no, you have to be bold and I started doing it in English, which I was como estaba asustada. Yo decía, oh my gosh, having these conversations in English, like I don't know, I thought it was hard. So sí,
I 100% like I remember us briefly mentioning it.
Yeah.
But I give you so much props and kudos and whatever and love and support because I think that is such a challenge because my Spanish, I'm not as confident, and I don't think I would sit here and try to do a whole podcast in Spanish. I feel like I'd be stuck on my words and I would let it get to my head. So the fact that you're sitting here like, this is not my comfort level, but I'm going to do it anyway. You're living up to everything that your business is and your legacy will be built on. Yeah. Like being bold. Like it's one thing to say it, but you're living it. Like you're like, I'm showing you what I stand for. Like it's incredible.
And actually, I realized this when I was doing I did a boot camp with Erika de la Vega, which she's a Venezuelan Cuban podcaster, right? And she started in Defensa Propia many years ago because she came from Venezuela and she was a really, really well-known comediante, presentadora, like in Venezuela, and she came here and it was like, okay, I'm
nothing.
Like I have to start from zero. Who am I? Like she became like, I don't have an identity because her identity was who she was in Venezuela, and what she was doing, her career. And then she started her podcast, right? And looking for answers. And for me, when she said that, and I was able to present Hablamos Spanglish idea to her at this bootcamp, and she told me that, like, do it for you. Do it for you. And that's why I said, you know what? I have to do this for me and searching for those answers that I'm looking, which was to also not feel alone in my journey because I'm Hispana, inmigrante, but just like me, there are many, many, many stories. So that's why when everything started. So
that's amazing.
That's why I feel like you'll find it. You'll find your purpose.
And the timing is always right for everything.
Yes.
Because I think that also matters. I think, I remember wanting things so bad and them not happening and being devastated. And now I'm like, thank God it didn't happen because I don't know if it would have worked out. I wasn't emotionally ready or mentally or spiritually or whatever. Like, I just feel like it happens when you can handle it. And so, I know that the pressures that I've had in the past a little over a year that I've launched a business, I'm good with talking to people. I can do that. But the business side of things and having to put on my big girl panties and be like, I can do all the business side of it. It was really challenging. And I don't think I could have handled that emotional stress and pressure 5 years ago, 3, maybe even 10, whatever. Like now at this point in my life, I can totally take it.
Yeah.
And I'm not as affected emotionally as I probably would have been. So I know that although I wanted certain things a long time ago, it happened when it was supposed to.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
so
yes.
maybe the podcast will happen when it's supposed to. We'll see. But yeah, it's really inspiring just to watch your story and so many others. And, you know, I know we're talking about really women and because of the month that we're in, but in general, like the people that we've met, our own fathers and family members, just hearing their stories has such a profound impact in what we do today.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, for sure.
And talking about Women's Heritage Month, you know, I'm very lucky to count on the support of many, many women. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning, is like creating that support group around you, you know, with those that, you know, with those women that you can actually be open with. And now I think, you know, and that's why I decided to do this with marketing, women in marketing, right? And Latinas in marketing. I had Latinas, but also I have my American friend, Delana, being part of this month, because I also want to showcase that it's like, you know, we are strong, we're powerful, we are here to support us, right? Also, and I really want to start a community where we can, mira, me pasó esto con un cliente.
100%.
Or I have an idea and we can brainstorm, or maybe, I have a client and we need to collaborate. So, yeah. And because you don't see that in marketing, in the marketing world.
Well, count me in. If you start those meetings, I'm there. I will market them and support them. You just reminded me too of a story that, in my like male dominated industry, there was one time that I was assigned actually a market research project on the Hispanic market. And I was told to do it. You have 2 weeks and you're going to present it. And the presentation was a round table of all men, right? So my mind is, I need to prepare this research. I need to wear a pantsuit because I got to look like a man. Like that's in my head, right? Like I can't be a girl. And I remember the night before, my husband, Roberto, it's like super late. And he's very black and white. Like he's just not, I'm animated and he's like, get to the point.
Well, he's a lawyer, so
he better be, right? Yeah. So I remember going, I'm going to show you my presentation. I have it tomorrow. And I have all these PowerPoint slides and I'm going nuts. And I had printed everything out and I see him literally Xing and he put the paper down and he would do another X. And I'm presenting and I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, get rid of everything. It's all garbage. You need the intro, you need the outro with your data, and that's it. You have too much stuff. And I said, you're right. I know this and I'm using this as a crutch. So I go the next day, I present, we're at the round table and everyone's like, you know, the guys were like impressed and I felt like, yeah, the pantsuit got me here. But one of the guys next to me, he looks at me and he goes, I'm so glad you took my pointers, you took my advice, you did so well at my guidance. Algo así. And I was like, way. And I remember in a split second, I was like, do I stand up for myself or do I like just say okay and smile? Because I was intimidated. And I looked at him and I was like, was that you at my house last night, my living room with my husband helping me? I forgot. I didn't realize you were there. We made a joke. So the other guys start laughing and they're like, dude, you're such a narcissist. And they had like a moment of poking fun. And he, que trigueñito, se puso red. But I remember I was like, okay, you know, like now I see where, you know, where some of this stuff stands. Like I have to be ready for that in this kind of like male dominated industry, not everywhere, but just, and it's not a girl versus guy thing. Just in this situation, I encountered that and it happened multiple times. And that for me was the first time that I spoke up. And that was also the moment that I was like, I can do this on my own.
Yes.
I don't need you guys. No. You know, I can do this on my own. I'll figure it out and I may mess up, but like, I'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was a pivotal moment for me that I'll never forget.
No, I have had many stories like that throughout my journey. And at the beginning, you don't even know how to act. You know, so I'm like the way that you were like, I'm gonna stand up with myself, and
I had never done that. This was the first time I was like, pantalones, here I come,
sí,
like
pero,
my pantsuit.
A veces uno le da miedo, like
100%.
You know, like, but yo dije, no, you know what your value is and your values as well, right? So, and you know what you bring to the table and the value that you provide. So yeah.
Yeah, it took a little bit, but he was so embarrassed. I'm like, how did that feel? Anyway.
Oh my God. Pero Estee, gracias.
Thank you. This was awesome.
You know, I love chatting with you, and I think we need to make this often. Carolina, thank you for the margaritas.
Yes, awesome. You're not done with it. I drink way too much.
I'm not done. We have been talking a lot, but yeah, this is you know, we always when we have margaritas it's great. So
let's do another little
cheers
toast to women and to entrepreneurs and to your podcast and your continued success with your business.
Appreciate
and the podcast.
Let's continue growing together.
Yes, I love that.
Muchísimas gracias, mi gente. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey of Hablamos Spanglish. It is a pleasure for me to explore the diverse stories and experiences within our vibrant Hispanic community. I hope that you have found inspiration, connection, and a deeper appreciation for our culture and heritage. Remember, our stories are what unite us and what make us stronger. Stay tuned for more captivating episodes in the future, and don't forget to follow us on social media and share your thoughts with us. Hasta pronto.